Gefangenenlager, whispered the sign above the barbed wire. Translation, prison camp. But in November 1944, at Camp Concordia, Kansas, that sign might as well have read Paradise. Because inside the mess hall, something impossible was happening. Rows of wooden benches, checkered tablecloths, and, wait for it, golden brown turkeys the size of small children. German prisoners who hadn't seen a full chicken since 1942 stared at 32 birds, steam curling off the skin like morning fog. One former panzer gunner would later write home, "I thought the Americans were fattening us for execution." The truth was worse, for our ideology. The average German grunt in 1944 survived on 1-200 calories a day. A hunk of gray war bread, ersatz coffee that tasted like burnt acorns, and maybe a spoon of turnip jam. Their propaganda posters showed U.S. soldiers as soft, gum-chewing weaklings who couldn't fight without ice cream ships. So when 500,000 Wehrmacht prisoners landed on American soil, they braced for hunger, humiliation, maybe even torture. Instead, they got Thanksgiving. Not scraps. Not leftovers. The full Norman Rockwell, turkey, cranberry jelly that wobbled like neon jello. Mashed potatoes so creamy you could sculpt a bust of Hitler out of them. Though nobody did, because butter was rationed back home. One meal, 3,500 calories, single sitting. The psychological equivalent of dropping a bomb on everything they believed. Picture the Eastern Front, winter 43, temperatures -20. A Feldwebel named Otto digs frozen turnips out of a field, while Soviet shells whistle overhead. His hands are raw, his stomach a hollow echo. Mail arrives, one letter from his wife. She writes, "We boil potato peels for soup." The baby's crying, "Stay alive." Otto folds the paper into a tiny square and tucks it under the lining of his boot. Because paper is insulation and memory, a fragile shield against the biting cold and gnawing fear, he clings to the words, to the faint scent of home, a scent that seems to evaporate with each passing day of war. Fast forward 18 months. Otto, now a POW, sits in a Missouri camp cafeteria. The air is warm, impossibly so, and thick with unfamiliar, comforting aromas. A smiling GI named Johnson, chewing gum, of course, the very picture of the soft American soldier from the posters, slaps a drumstick on Otto's plate and says, "Eat up, buddy. There's pumpkin pie coming." Otto doesn't trust the drumstick. It looks too perfect, too succulent. He pokes it with his fork, half expecting a hidden bayonet to spring out, or perhaps a booby trap designed to mock his hunger. Nothing happens. Just juice. Real juice, rich and savory, runs onto the plate. It is the first honest-to-God poultry fat he's tasted since Hitler's 50th birthday parade. A distant memory from a world that no longer exists. The lie that Americans were starving, that their nation was on the brink of collapse, collapses faster than the bridge at Remagen. It shatters with each bite of tender meat, each unexpected burst of flavor. This wasn't just food. It was an assault on his indoctrination, a direct contradiction to every propaganda leaflet he'd ever seen. He chewed slowly, each mouthful a silent, profound interrogation of his own beliefs. Captured in Tunisia, often after weeks of relentless fighting and dwindling supplies, these German soldiers were already at the precipice of physical and psychological exhaustion. Their journey across the Atlantic aboard Liberty ships was not what they expected. Prisoners expected submarine torpedoes, a grim end at sea, or at least lousy grub, the kind of meager rations befitting defeated enemies. They got neither. Instead, as they embarked on these hastily converted vessels, teeming with thousands of their comrades, a new kind of shock began to set in. U.S. guards, often young and surprisingly jovial, handed out white bread slices like postcards. Not just any bread, but soft, pristine white bread, a luxury virtually unknown in wartime Germany. One POW, Unteroffizier Franz, meticulously recorded his observations in his secret diary, a clandestine act of preserving truth amidst the propaganda. He wrote, "The bread is so white it blinds me. I traded a cigarette for a second slice, then felt shame. My mother hasn't seen white flour since 40. This simple act of trading a precious cigarette for another slice of bread spoke volumes about the scarcity they had known and the sudden, disorienting abundance they now faced. The guards, seemingly oblivious to the profound impact of their casual generosity, would often quip, 'Don't worry, boys, you'll gain weight here.' The prisoners, hardened by years of deprivation and constant hunger, laughed at this. Weight was something you lost, like friends, like hope, like territory. It was a constant battle against the thinning of their own bodies. But scales inside Camp Ruston, Louisiana, proved the joke wrong. The average prisoner gained an astonishing 28 pounds in 6 months. 28. That's an entire Thanksgiving toddler made of flesh and hope, a tangible testament to a nutritional reality that defied their every expectation and propaganda-fueled belief. This weight gain wasn't just a physical transformation. It was a psychological one, forcing them to confront the stark contrast between the narrative of American weakness and the undeniable, palpable evidence of American strength and generosity. November 23, 1944, Camp Tonkawa, Oklahoma. The crisp autumn air carried a scent that was alien yet deeply inviting. Reveille at 600, but nobody rolls the beds. The usual morning routine, dictated by the harsh realities of military life, was subtly altered. Kitchen staff, German bakers retrained under American supervision, a testament to efficiency and a subtle form of cultural exchange, have been up since 0300. Dough rises faster when you're not being shelled, and the absence of artillery fire allowed for a methodical, almost peaceful rhythm of preparation. By 1000, the mess hall smells like a fairy tale. Sage, nutmeg, turkey drippings pooling in sheet pans big enough to bathe in. A symphony of aromas that spoke of comfort and plenty. Prisoners, many still bewildered by the sheer scale of American resources, filed in, caps off, eyes wide with a mixture of suspicion and awe. A Lutheran chaplain from Milwaukee, a man with a kind face and a gentle voice, recited a short prayer in German, a gesture of respect that cut through the language barrier and the ideological divide. Nobody boos. Even the hardcore Nazis, usually quick to assert their dominance and ideological purity, kept quiet. The aroma had disarmed them more thoroughly than any interrogator, softening their resolve with the promise of sustenance. Then came the carving. A single GI, perhaps a farm boy from Iowa, with an electric knife. A piece of technology that amazed the prisoners, a gadget from a future they hadn't imagined. Sliced breast meat so thin you could read the Geneva Convention through it. Plates piled high. The first shock, volume. Portions so immense they seemed almost obscene. Enough to feed a small family, not just one man. The second shock, variety. Sweet potatoes under melted marshmallows? What devilry is this? This sugary, gooey concoction was utterly foreign. A confectionery mystery. One POW whispered to his neighbor, "Maybe the marshmallows are poison." His tablemate, a man whose hunger had long since overcome caution, shrugged, swallowed 2 spoonfuls, and lived. A silent victory for curiosity and appetite. A third shock. Seconds are encouraged. The GIs, with genuine smiles, urged them to take more, to fill their plates again and again. A fourth. Cigarettes handed out afterward like after-dinner mints, a simple luxury that underscored the overwhelming generosity. By 1400, stomachs ached in languages that only shared one word. Voll, full. It was a fullness that went beyond mere physical satiation. It was a psychological repletion, a moment of unexpected grace in the midst of war. Full stomachs do strange things to ideology. The physical sensation of satiety, so long denied, began to chip away at the rigid mental constructs built by years of propaganda. Nazi camp leaders, remnants of a shattered hierarchy, tried desperately to keep order and maintain the party line. Remember, comrades, this is enemy trickery. They seek to weaken your resolve with their decadent food. But you can't police gratitude when men hide dinner rolls under pillows for breakfast, cherishing each crumb as a symbol of unexpected mercy. The basic human need for sustenance, once met with such overwhelming generosity, superseded the abstract dictates of a collapsing regime. Diaries from this period reveal nightly debates, whispered conversations in the barracks that questioned the very foundations of their worldview. If America can feed prisoners like kings, what does that say about our leaders? What truth have we been told? Some prisoners, grappling with this profound cognitive dissonance, refused to write propaganda postcards home. They didn't want their families, starving in bombed-out cities, to know they ate better than them. The shame and the bewildering luxury created a moral dilemma. Cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable mental state of holding conflicting beliefs, tasted like turkey gravy. It was rich, unsettling, and undeniably present. A few hardliners, clinging to the last vestiges of their faith, maintained the party line, claiming the U.S. would collapse any week, that this abundance was a temporary, unsustainable facade. Then came Christmas, just a month later, a sequel to the Thanksgiving feast. Carols were sung in German, a poignant echo of home. Care packages arrived, filled with hand-knitted scarves from Iowa church ladies, small, tangible acts of kindness from ordinary Americans, and, most subversive of all, photos of American families celebrating the very same meal, gathered around tables laden with food, smiling, free. This was the visual proof that abundance wasn't staged for POW eyes, a temporary show of force. It was a way of life. One prisoner, a former U-boat radio operator, a man who had once dedicated his life to destroying American shipping, wrote in his memoir, "I can't hate these people. They gave my enemy mother fudge. My heart is breaking like stale Lebkuchen." The simple act of shared humanity, mediated by food, shattered years of ingrained hatred and propaganda. Thanksgiving was the headline, the dramatic opening act of this culinary re-education, but daily menus hammered the message home with relentless consistency. The initial shock of the holiday feast was slowly replaced by the steady, undeniable reality of everyday plenty. Breakfast: eggs, often scrambled or fried, bacon sizzling on griddles, oatmeal with real milk, not the watered-down, ersatz substitutes they knew. Lunch: spam fritters, a curious American invention, mashed potatoes in generous scoops, and fruit cocktail, a colorful, sweet medley of preserved fruits that felt like a special treat. Dinner: roast beef, rich gravy, and often a slice of cake. A dessert that symbolized celebration and luxury in a Germany where sugar was a dream. Calories hovered around 3,800. A biocite, figure that dwarfed the 1,200 calories they received as combatants, and was even higher than U.S. Army combat rations for frontline soldiers. Medical inspections, initially grim, showed beriberi and pellagra, once rampant among the undernourished prisoners, reversing within weeks. Their gaunt faces filled out, their eyes regained their spark. Guards, observing this remarkable transformation, nicknamed the prisoners fat cats, a term of affectionate bewilderment. POWs, in turn, joked among themselves that if the war lasted another year, they'd roll home like wagon wheels, their bodies testament to American abundance. Camp canteens, bustling hubs of a peculiar wartime economy, sold Coca-Cola at 5 cents a bottle. Prisoners bought crates, not just for the taste, which was an acquired one, but primarily for the glass. They turned the sturdy bottles into delicate crystal radios to hear BBC broadcasts. Information flowed in with the calories. The BBC, once a distant enemy voice, now brought news that echoed the physical changes they were undergoing. They heard that Dresden burned, Warsaw rose from its ashes, Berlin crumbled under relentless Allied bombing. Each headline, each piece of news confirming the Reich's imminent collapse, tasted sweeter through Coke bubbles, a tangible connection to a world beyond the barbed wire, a world where their former leaders were losing the very war they had promised to win. Mail censorship was strict, a necessary measure in wartime, but hunger has its own code, its own clandestine language. A POW, cunning and desperate to convey the unbelievable truth to his family without alerting the censors, would write, "Dear Elsa, I ate so much turkey my belt broke. Please send a longer belt." Size American. Families back in Germany, acutely aware of their own privations, got the message. Their men were not starving. This revelation, however, sparked a complex range of emotions. Some wives cried, not from relief for their husbands, but from a bitter resentment. Why did their men feast in captivity, while their children scavenged for coal in bombed-out ruins, and their own stomachs ached with constant hunger? The Reich's post office, observing an unexpected phenomenon, reported a spike in packages sent to camps. Homemade gloves, carefully darned sweaters, even small, crudely carved toys. German civilians, in a remarkable act of human empathy, hoped to reciprocate kindness, though socks couldn't compete with turkey. Yet the gesture mattered. A bridge built across enemy lines by common humanity. One prisoner, particularly resourceful, even mailed a tin of leftover pumpkin filling, smuggled in a toothpaste tube, a testament to his ingenuity, to his sister. She mixed it into turnip soup for Christmas Eve, a dish of desperation transformed by an unexpected ingredient. One spoonful each for 6 family members, tears all around. Abundance, once tasted, becomes portable hope, a seed planted that could sprout even in the most barren of lands. It was a whisper of a different future, a world where such simple luxuries might one day return. Army records, meticulously kept even amidst the chaos of global war, show that the U.S. spent more feeding German POWs than it did on some New Deal programs designed to alleviate poverty during the Great Depression. The cost per prisoner per day, $1.19 in 1944 dollars. That's roughly $19 today, a significant sum. Multiply that by 378,000 prisoners, and the total annual food bill topped $160 million in today's money. This was not a minor expense. It was a substantial financial commitment. Naturally, congressmen grumbled, their constituents often demanding why enemy soldiers were being fed so well, while American families faced rationing. Headlines screamed, "Feed our allies first." The political pressure was immense, but the military held firm. Their rationale was pragmatic and far-sighted. Humane treatment paid intelligence dividends. Camp commanders reported an undeniable trend. Prisoners, softened by good food and fair treatment, began volunteering information: U-boat positions, V2 factory locations, troop movements, often after holiday meals, or simply as a result of the daily routine of being well-fed and treated with dignity. A well-fed enemy tongue wags softer and with less resistance, one interrogator noted with a touch of dark humor and profound insight. "We could have waterboarded them for weeks and gotten less than we got from a plate of ham and candied yams." The strategy worked. By war's end, an astonishing 90% of POWs signed statements acknowledging American fair play and humane treatment. Propaganda leaflets dropped over the Reich, often featuring quotes from these very POWs, used their words as a weapon. The greatest weapon, it turned out, was a turkey, stuffed not with bread, but with credibility. It was a silent, powerful victory in the battle for hearts and minds, a testament to the idea that kindness could be a strategic asset. November 24th, 1944. The day after Thanksgiving. Leftovers. Mountains of them. The sheer volume of food meant that the feast extended beyond a single meal. Camp cooks, embracing American thrift, turned turkey bones into soup, stretching the bounty for days, ensuring nothing went to waste. Prisoners, observing this practical approach to abundance, learned not only about American generosity, but also about American efficiency and resourcefulness. They also learned football, not soccer, which was their national sport. Watching GIs toss spirals outside the fence, a strange, energetic ritual. Some, their curiosity piqued by this unfamiliar game, asked for rules, received broken English explanations, and, remarkably, formed teams. The first ever POW Bowl was played inside Camp Grant, Illinois, a surreal spectacle of former enemies engaging in friendly competition. The final score mattered less than the spectacle itself. Enemies sprinting, laughing, mud-splattered, for a moment forgetting the war that raged on. Guards bet chocolate bars on the outcome. Prisoners, with no money, bet chore duties, adding a layer of playful stakes to the game. For a moment, the war paused, replaced by the universal language of sport. Similar scenes repeated each holiday, each celebration building on the last. Repetition bred routine, routine bred normalcy, and normalcy, in turn, bred reflection. Diaries from 1945 show a recurring phrase, a nascent thought that would grow into a profound reevaluation. Maybe the people are good, only the leaders bad. A simplistic binary, yes, but revolutions of thought, much like political ones, often begin with binaries that fill bellies and challenge long-held assumptions. Repatriation started late 1945, a slow, complex process of returning hundreds of thousands of men to a shattered homeland. Ships docked at Bremerhaven, their massive hulls a stark contrast to the ruined port. Emaciated civilians, gaunt and hollow-eyed, lined the quays, searching for familiar faces among the disembarking soldiers. Off walked 180-pound men in pressed uniforms, surprisingly robust, their bodies a testament to a different kind of war experience. Relatives didn't recognize sons. Mothers struggled to reconcile the healthy, well-fed men before them with the skeletal figures they remembered. One mother, overwhelmed by the sight, fainted when her boy, now surprisingly strong, lifted her like a feather, a gesture of affection that underscored his physical transformation. The prisoners carried duffel bags stuffed not with loot, but with Cracker Jack prizes, Hershey wrappers, and, perhaps most importantly, handwritten recipes for pumpkin pie. These were not just souvenirs. They were artifacts of a cultural exchange. They told stories, carefully, because denazification boards listened, scrutinizing every word for lingering ideological taint. But over dinner tables back home, in hushed tones, tales of American abundance spread faster than occupying forces. A Munich baker, hearing these stories, copied the recipe for Parker House rolls, an American staple. Within a year, Amerikaner became a slang term for anything oversized, a physical manifestation of the perceived American scale. Historians now credit these returned POWs with accelerating West Germany's post-war economic miracle. They had seen what abundance looked like, tasted it, experienced it daily, and they wanted to rebuild it, minus the marshmallows, which nobody could replicate with German ingredients. A small, sweet reminder of an unreplicable American eccentricity. Their experiences provided a powerful, tangible vision of prosperity that fueled the nation's reconstruction. If this story flips your view of wartime kindness, hit subscribe. More forgotten history drops weekly. Like the video so the algorithm spreads a little humanity too. December 25, 1944, Camp McLean, Texas. The temperature was a balmy 65 degrees, a stark contrast to the freezing winters of the Eastern Front, a warmth that felt like a foreign luxury to the German prisoners. They woke to find stockings at the foot of their bunks, real wool stockings, not the threadbare socks they'd worn for years, and filled with oranges. Oranges. In Europe, citrus had vanished since '41, a distant memory of pre-war luxury. Many didn't know how to eat them. Guards, with a patient smile, demonstrated peeling. The segments then passed hand to muddy hand. A shared moment of simple pleasure. Choirs formed spontaneously. Stille Nacht, sung in unaccented German, a melody that transcended the barbed wire. Local families, embracing the spirit of the season, arrived with wrapped gifts, harmonicas, sketchbooks, pencils, simple tokens of goodwill. An 18-year-old POW named Heinrich, a talented artist, sketched the scene, capturing the improbable tableau of shared humanity, and mailed it home. The drawing survives today in a granddaughter's attic in Hamburg. Americans and Germans sharing a bench, mouths open mid-song, a testament to a moment of peace. No swastikas, no slogans, just voices harmonizing. That Christmas, post offices across U.S. towns reported record charity donations. People, moved by the stories of these enemy soldiers, wanted to keep the miracle going, to extend the hand of kindness. The war still raged in Belgium, a brutal, bloody conflict. But inside the camps, peace had a flavor. Orange zest and the echo of carols. Not every prisoner converted immediately. The ideological grip of Nazism was strong, particularly among older, more committed party members. Hardcore Nazis existed, forming a clandestine chain of command within the camps, enforcing discipline and punishing fraternizers who dared to engage too freely with their American captors. Some, in a defiant act of ideological purity, refused holiday meals, choosing smaller rations in solitary barracks, clinging to the belief that the food was drugged. The Carol's sedition, a subtle form of psychological warfare. They saw generosity as weakness, abundance as a trick. But even they cracked slowly, under the relentless assault of kindness and calories. A party functionary named Klaus, a man known for his unyielding adherence to the party line, held out until February '45, his resolve fueled by a dwindling sense of purpose. Then came a Red Cross inspection, cameras rolling, capturing every moment. He accepted a slice of pound cake to prove American propaganda was just that. Propaganda. One bite, eyes widened. The cameras caught it. The subtle shift in his expression, the unexpected pleasure. After that, Klaus, his ideological armor subtly cracked, quietly requested seconds. Then, even more quietly, asked the cook for the recipe. For my sister. The baker, a Jewish GI from Brooklyn, a man whose family had fled the very ideology Klaus once championed, grinned and handed it over. Nothing dramatic, just sugar, butter, eggs, ingredients scarcer than diamonds in the Reich. Klaus mailed the recipe home. It arrived after the surrender. His family, in a poignant act of reconciliation, baked it for the first post-war birthday. They served it with apologies to neighbors they had once insulted, to friends they had once shunned. Cake as reparation, a simple, sweet symbol of a nation beginning to heal. Locals living near the camps often remember the German POWs fondly, their memories untainted by the bitterness of war. Farm kids earned nickels unloading produce trucks destined for the camps, witnessing firsthand the sheer volume of food being delivered. Teenagers, driven by curiosity and a desire for novelty, sneaked to the fence to trade comic books for hand-carved wooden toys, POWs crafted from scrap wood, a quiet, illicit form of cultural exchange. At Thanksgiving 1944, Camp Clarinda, Iowa, took the extraordinary step of inviting townspeople to watch the feast, a public demonstration of their humane treatment. Newspapers reported enemy guests eating better than governors, sparking heated debates in editorials about morality and wartime priorities. But the public, demonstrating a remarkable capacity for empathy, lined up, not to protest, but to donate pies. One woman, her family's rationed sugar gone for the month, brought 20 pumpkin pies, a staggering act of generosity. When asked why, she answered simply, with profound wisdom, "Hate doesn't end wars. Full stomachs might." Her grandson still has the thank you letter, written by a POW in ornate cursive, "We will remember Iowa when we rebuild." That letter sits framed beside modern German-American friendship certificates, a testament to the enduring power of kindness. Memory, like gravy, sticks across generations, binding people together in unexpected ways. After the war, U.S. authorities, recognizing the profound impact of this approach, compiled a 600-page report titled Re-Education Through Nutrition. It was a document of immense strategic importance, yet it was buried in archives, largely forgotten. Until 2002, historians rediscovered it, stunned by its implications. The official policy, meticulously documented, was clear: feed, then educate. The kitchens were merely the prelude to the classrooms. POWs attended English lessons, democracy seminars, film screenings designed to introduce them to American values and civic life. Attendance was optional, a key psychological detail, but dessert was mandatory, a subtle incentive that underscored the American approach. Completion rates for these courses soared, a clear indicator of their effectiveness. By 1946, 140,000 prisoners passed certified courses, carrying home not just full bellies, but also new ideas. Many later credited the meals as the hook, the initial point of engagement that opened their minds to new perspectives. A well-known sociologist studying the camps coined the term gastro-propaganda, recognizing the strategic genius of using food as a tool for ideological transformation. Food became textbook, a powerful, edible lesson. Thanksgiving turkey, page 1 of this curriculum. The concept spread. Japan, Korea, and later conflicts copied the model, recognizing the enduring power of soft power. Today's military field manuals still cite calorie counts from 1944 as benchmarks for humane treatment. Generals call it soft power, a nuanced approach to conflict. But inside the POW memory, it just tasted like second helpings, a simple act of generosity that reshaped their world. Got a story about food changing minds? Drop it in the comments. History lives in conversations. And hey, if you want more tales where dinner defeats doctrine, subscribe and ring that bell. Ask any survivor what shocked them most. What detail truly lodged itself in their memory? And they won't say tanks, planes, or atom bombs. They'll mention white bread, soft, squishy, bought in loaves so wide you could use them as pillows, a testament to American efficiency and agricultural output. Prisoners snuck slices back to barracks, staring at them under the moonlight, squeezing them gently as if testing reality, confirming the unbelievable softness. In post-war memoirs, the phrase, "We didn't know bread could feel like clouds," recurs with astonishing frequency. That softness became a powerful metaphor. A country capable of such gentle abundance, of such seemingly effortless production of basic necessities, must be, at minimum, complicated, far more complex than the caricatures drawn by their propaganda. For men raised on hard brown bricks mixed with sawdust, a staple of wartime German rations, the loaf was a revelation, a tangible symbol of a different kind of power. Many returned home demanding better bakeries. West Germany's post-war bread renaissance traces a direct lineage to those soft, white slices. You can taste it today in any Munich supermarket. Featherlight toast, a far cry from the wartime bricks, a lingering echo of a profound cultural encounter. History, it turns out, has a crumb trail, leading from a simple loaf of bread to a transformed national palate and a shifted worldview. Repatriation ships sailed in the spring of 1946, carrying a transformed generation of men back to a transformed Germany. The final meal served on board was symbolic. Turkey sandwiches on soft white bread, pickles, coffee. No barbed wire, no guards, just the vast, open ocean stretching before them. Some prisoners wept, not for freedom, which they now had, but for the food they'd miss, for the unexpected kindness, for the temporary paradise they were leaving behind. One memoir ends with a poignant, powerful sentence. "We left the land of the free, and we were full." Back in ruined cities, they told neighbors, children, anyone who'd listen. America fought with calories. The story sounded like bragging, like a fantastical tale, until rebuilding began. Tractors arrived, flour shipments followed, the Marshall Plan injected massive aid, proof that abundance could be policy, not accident. Every fourth Thursday of November, tiny pockets of Germany now celebrate a voluntary Thanksgiving. Not official, not a national holiday, just families roasting turkey, humming carols in English, a quiet, personal remembrance. They don't call it tradition, they call it memory on a plate, a living testament to a time when food changed everything. The war ended, but the feast and its profound lessons never really stopped. So, German POWs arrived expecting cruelty and found cranberry sauce. A single meal, a single day of unexpected plenty, rewrote their world view, one forkful at a time. It turns out you can bomb factories, you can shatter infrastructure, but you truly shatter ideologies with gravy boats and plates piled high. America's secret weapon wasn't just its industrial might, its capacity for mass production. It was the audacity to share turkey with the enemy and mean it, to extend a hand of genuine, overwhelming generosity. The next time you sit down to Thanksgiving, remember, somewhere in the ruins of 1945, a former soldier tasted pumpkin pie and realized everything he'd been told was a lie. And that, more than any treaty, more than any political decree, planted seeds of peace, of understanding, and of a future rebuilt on a foundation of shared humanity. If you enjoyed this slice of hidden history, share the video with someone who could use a second helping of humanity. Subscribe for more untold stories, and I'll see you in the next one.